Chapter 16, Fast Friends. Lydia burst into tears, threw her arms around Caroline, and pulled her away from the edge. Caroline clung to her cousin as they walked toward the shore. Now that she was safe, she couldn't stop shaking. "I was so frightened," Lydia cried. "I thought we'd lost you," Rhonda added, her voice cracking. Caroline stepped back and looked from one girl to the other. "Thank you," she said, through chattering teeth. "And I'm sorry. I know I put us all in danger. I should never have gone out on the ice." "We tried to say so," Lydia reminded her. "Why didn't you listen?" It was hard to tell the truth, but Caroline knew she had to try. "Sometimes you two treat me like a little child. You never think about what I want to do. It makes me feel left out." "We don't leave you out," Rhonda protested. "When we invite you to do things with us, you act as if you think we're silly." "I do?" Caroline wondered. A flush warmed her cheeks. Was it possible that she might have hurt the other girls' feelings in much the same way that they'd hurt hers? "I don't think you're silly," Caroline said. "I just wanted us to have some fun together outdoors." She looked at Rhonda. "I gave you those beautiful skates for Christmas, and you didn't even want to try them." "I already told you that I didn't like skating," Rhonda said quietly. "Those skates weren't a gift to me, Caroline. They were a gift you gave yourself." Caroline stared at her friend. What an awful thing to say. But it's true, she realized. She blew out a long breath before admitting, "You're right." Rhonda squeezed Caroline's hand. "I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. I never meant to." "I'm sorry too," Lydia said quickly. Caroline felt as if a heavy block of ice had just slipped from her shoulders. "And I am as well," she said. "Now let's go home." When the girls got home, Caroline said, "You two go change into dry clothes. I'll be along." "What are you going to do?" Lydia asked. "I need to find grandmother," Caroline told them. "I have some explaining to do." It was hard to confess to Grandma. Caroline ended the tale by saying, "I'm sorry, grandmother, very sorry." She stood with her back to the hearth. The fire's warmth was lovely. The hard look in grandmother's eyes was terrible. "What are you sorry about?" Grandma asked. "Everything," Caroline started to say, but she realized that grandmother expected something more. "I'm sorry I took the rim from your spinning wheel without asking your permission," Caroline began, "and for going out on the ice, and for talking Lydia and Rhonda into going with me." Grandmother's face did not soften. "You've made a lot of poor decisions, Caroline." "Yes, ma'am." Caroline stared at the floor. "I didn't even bring back the rim for your spinning wheel," she added miserably. Grandmother said. "At least you made one good choice. I'd much rather lose that hoop than lose you." Those words made Caroline feel a tiny bit better. "And we can easily get a new hoop made," Grandmother added. "But Caroline, you must never again let hurt feelings lead you to make foolish, even dangerous decisions." "I won't," Caroline promised. She added silently, "And I'll try not to let my feelings get hurt so easily." What was done couldn't be undone, but from now on she'd try to consider other people's feelings too. Thinking about that, Caroline looked away and noticed Amelia standing by the window, watching some boys passing by with their sleds. She had a look of longing on her face. "Amelia," Caroline said, "would you like me to take you outside? I could pull you around on my sled." Amelia stared at her with surprise. "Oh, yes." Grandmother gave Caroline a tiny nod of approval. 5 minutes later, Caroline began towing Amelia across the garden on her sled. The little girl clapped her hands and giggled with delight. "This is fun." Caroline thought, "I get frustrated because I'm younger than Lydia and Rhonda, but Amelia is the youngest of all and doesn't have anyone to play with." Caroline wished she'd offered to take Amelia sledding long ago. "There's a little hill behind the neighbor's house," Caroline called over her shoulder. "They won't mind if we sled there. Would you like to try that?" "Let's go," Amelia shouted. Caroline smiled. Perhaps she'd found a friend for outdoor adventure, at least small ones, after all. New Year's Day, January 1st, 1813, dawned clear and cold. After breakfast, Caroline went into the parlor and sat by the map she'd stitched for Papa. Where was he, right this minute? Was he somewhere represented on her map, or had the British taken him far, far away? It's a brand new year, Papa, Caroline thought. Surely he would come home in 1813. He simply had to. Lydia poked her head through the door. I've been looking for you, Caroline, she said. Would you like to go skating? Just you and me? Caroline stared at her cousin. But won't Rhonda feel left out? She asked. We three don't have to do everything together, Lydia said. Her eyes twinkled. Rhonda won't mind, I promise. Then yes, Caroline agreed. She raced for the door, but then skidded to a halt. Would you mind if we invited Amelia? She can wear the skates I used when I was little. Lydia nodded. That's a fine idea. Amelia thought it was a fine idea, too. You'll take me? She squealed. Thank you. Soon Caroline, Lydia, and Amelia had bundled into their warmest clothes and set off for the lake. When Amelia saw other skaters gliding this way and that, she jumped up and down with excitement. Caroline laughed. You'll have to stand still long enough for us to put on your skates, Amelia. The two older girls put on their own skates before strapping the smallest pair onto Amelia's boots. Caroline and I will hold you up, Lydia promised. Let us pull you along at first so you get the feel of the ice. We'll stay off to one side where there are fewer people, Caroline added. Amelia held herself stiffly at first, but then relaxed as the older girls pulled her along. Soon Lydia said, Try taking some little strokes. Watch my feet. See how I push off against the ice. Caroline felt Amelia's hand squeezing hers even tighter as the little girl tried to copy Lydia's movements. That's it, Caroline cried. You're skating. Amelia nodded proudly. Then Caroline heard a familiar voice. My goodness, Rhonda called out. I didn't expect to see my little sister learning to skate today, too. Caroline whipped her head around. What she saw made her dig one skate blade into the ice and come to a quick halt. She stared, open-mouthed, with surprise. Lydia laughed with delight. Rhonda, wearing her new skates, wobbled to a stop nearby. She was pushing a small chair sled. Grandmother sat in the chair, wrapped in blankets. Her face was glowing. I got the idea that day I came out on the ice with you, Rhonda told Caroline. With your mother's permission, Lydia and I asked Mr. Tate if he'd allow a couple of the shipyard workers to make this chair sled. The handles are nice and strong. As long as I hold on to them, I won't fall down. And I, Grandmother added, am out on the ice for the first time in years. It's a wonderful idea, Caroline said. Amelia tugged Caroline's hand. I want to ride in the sled. Come sit on my lap, child, Grandmother offered. Lydia and Caroline helped Amelia get settled. Grandmother arranged the blankets so that they covered them both. With a look of determination, Rhonda began skating again, pushing the sled in front of her. Have fun, she called to Lydia and Caroline. Soon I'll be able to keep up with you. Caroline waved them away with a smile. Somehow, despite the terrible mistakes she'd made recently, everything had turned out well. Maybe staying steady doesn't mean never making mistakes, she thought. Maybe the most important thing was to try and learn from your mistakes and to do better next time. Come on, Caroline, Lydia called. I'll race you. Caroline grinned. Let's go, she shouted, and pushed off as hard as she could. She marveled at the beauty of the sunlight glittering on the snowy shore. She breathed in the crisp, clean air, and soon she was flying over the frozen lake, free as a bird. Oh, Papa, how you would have loved this, Caroline thought. For a moment, tears blurred the shore, and longing squeezed her heart until she could hardly breathe with wishing he were home. Then Caroline blinked away the tears and looked out across the lake. She filled her lungs with fresh, cold air. I'll stay steady, just like I promised you, she told Papa. The blade of her skate made a sharp, clear sound against the ice as she pushed off again. I'll stay steady for as long as it takes, until you're home again and we're flying over this lake together.